Good evening, everyone. My name is Wamcalt, and tonight we will be talking about Sudoku, a infamous game that's known across the world. Something that as a child I was puzzled by simply because I couldn't do it until my dad taught me. Shout out Wamcalt's dad. He's cool. I'm not sure if he will ever see this. But anyways, before I get into that, I sort of have to address something that a lot of people who know me in real life and are fans of my videos will complain about. They will say, Womp why are you not in the Swatch room? We already filmed the Sudoku video in the Swatch room. This is very true. In fact, I have the footage of it right here. Part of the issue with that is it's not the best. I sort of ramble a lot through it, and it doesn't seem as coherent as I wanted it to be. Um, from a production standpoint, all of the equipment I got from Jamie was very good. So again, thank you, Jamie. Chip 4. But everything else was kind of eh. And I'm not going to lie, the acoustics in the Swatch room are not the best. Um, in case you're curious where I am now, this is my room, you know, in case you couldn't put that together. I guess you get to see little knickknacks I like. That's kind of funny. That's my bulletin board. Hi, bulletin board. Anyways, um, yeah, so it wasn't up to par from a production standpoint, and I will definitely make content in the Swatch room. It's where we film the podcast whenever that comes out. Again, I'm sorry I have to sort of go through that, and it does take a while to edit, but I promise it will eventually be out on the second channel. If you're thinking, Wonko, that's a second channel, the first one's not even off the ground. I know, I'm ambitious, aren't I? No, but in all seriousness, I'm redoing it in here because I got, in my opinion, better audio equipment that's it's not necessarily better, but I'm kind of an idiot, so I think it's better. Um, we'll call it idiot proof audio equipment. There we go. The other stuff I was using was too fancy. Jamie has pretty good audio equipment, but yeah. Yeah, if people who also see this are wondering, Womp Cult, what is the Swatch room? What are you doing? The Swatch room is somewhere between space and time that I like to visit sometimes with my friends when they're in studio. Just kidding. It's a place near the architecture studio at my school. I have a lot of friends who do architecture. I'm not sure why someone would torture themselves and do that, but hey, up to them, right? Seriously, got help. Anyways, yeah, that's pretty much it. Tonight we're going to talk about Sudoku. I've really liked Sudoku since I was a kid. I mean, it was like I said, my dad taught me how to do it. It was very informative to me because I realized that I I'm the sort of person who likes puzzles like that. Wonder who I got it from if my dad likes it. Wait, he's literally me. No, all jokes aside, Sudoku is a 3x3 grid based game, and tonight we're gonna have a brief history of it. So if that sounds good to you, go get something great to eat and sit down and scarf it down, and don't forget a bev. Um, I see a lot of people will have great food and watch YouTube and eat, but they forget a bev. You guys gotta stay hydrated, or gals, or my non-binary pals. I gotta write that down. That was a good rhyming scheme. Um, I guess that's because I'm scheming a way to keep your attention span. Short form content is ruining us all. So, what is Sudoku? Why does it matter? And what are the sort of global implications of it today? And how did we get there? For starters, Sudoku is a 3x3 puzzle grid that uses those as a base for 3x3 puzzle grids. Think Minecraft crafting tables put together. Um, the goal of the game is to get the numbers 1 through 9 in all of the squares where none of the numbers out of 1 through 9 in each square intersect in the same row or column. Pretty interesting, huh? Um, that's what we know it as today, but really the foundation of Sudoku started in the 18th century. Also, there'll be an image somewhere, probably here, um, of what Sudoku looks like in case people don't know. But yeah, it really started with Leonhard Euler in the 18th century. He was a Swiss mathematician, and he made the Latin square, which would basically use symbols in a grid instead of numbers. And basically, it was the same thing. I mean, you have these symbols, they're not supposed to intersect in a row or column. Pretty interesting because he originally made it for math research. It wasn't intended to be a puzzle thing. He was just kind of doing his job, I guess. And it was mainly used for psychology and I think experimental development on statistics. So, kind of interesting that, a math concept like that can influence game theory. But that's also kind of the interesting thing about game theory is that it influences life more than we know. And I'm talking about both the concept and Matt Pat as a human being. Seriously, if you guys haven't looked into Matt Pat, you should. I looked up his stats a while ago. That dude's like a genius. Anyways, also shout out Leonhard Euler. Euler's a cool last name. But yeah, so that's sort of the bare bones of it, right? You have this concept of a grid. It uses symbols instead of numbers, but it's the same concept. They can't intersect in the row or column. So the year is 1979. An American architect named Howard Garnes makes a challenging puzzle that first appears in Dell's puzzle magazine called Number Place. Also, note Howard Garnes was an American architect, hence the architect joke in the beginning. Um, but basically, this is the precursor to Sudoku. It's called Numbers Place, but has all the same rules I described in the beginning. It has a 9 by 9 grid, which I'm not sure why I didn't use before instead of describing Minecraft crafting tables put together. But yeah, it's a 9 by 9 grid that has subgrids of 3 by 3 ones, and each set of numbers has to go into each subgrid at least once, 1 through 9, and they can't interfere with each other in the row or column. The name numbers place actually refers to the fact that you need to get the numbers correct place, or else you will be wrong. Pretty funny. Uh, it was received pretty well by puzzle enthusiasts in the US, but everyone else kind of thought it was boring. Um, there's no doubt that Latin squares helped influence this in some way, along with magic numbers. Although I couldn't find as much about magic numbers. That was a different version of something in France, I believe in the 1930s, that basically you'd have these numbers, it would add up to a sum. Um, I tried to find stuff about it, but I couldn't find enough substance for a video section, so I thought I'd throw it in at the end. But yeah, this is basically the precursor to Sudoku. It's just Sudoku with a different name. Um, Howard Garnes is sort of an interesting person. But yeah, he was an American architect, made this very interesting to say the least that this didn't take off, but Sudoku does while it has the same rules. Kind of makes you think about how much branding and advertising matters. Maybe I should watch Mad Men. Have you guys ever seen Mad Men? I've heard it's an okay show. The year is 1984, and a puzzle company in Japan picks up Numbers Place and adopts it and changes its name to Sudoku. That puzzle company was Nicoli, assuming I'm pronouncing that correctly, which I'm probably not because I'm an American. Sudoku is basically short for something I'm not even going to try to pronounce, but it's down here. And it basically means that the digits must remain single, which is basically the same thing as numbers place, right? Has the same meaning to it, sort of sense. The cultural adoption, Japan loved this thing. Part of the reason because Nicoli would actually develop different versions of it. They were sort of the people who made the like easy, medium, and hard Sudokus. Basically, the easy ones have more pre-filled in numbers, the harder ones have less. So it sort of makes you rack your brain a little bit more. They even started to have puzzle solving competitions for this, which I thought was very interesting. I mean, this puzzle magazine really took this thing from America and sort of, like I said, you know, branded it in a way where it's something completely different, even though it's really not. Don't get me wrong; they definitely did have adaptations like the difficulties that made it more popular, but it's insane to think that this is basically the same thing as Numbers Place. This was one of, I believe, 7 puzzles in their puzzle magazine, but it had exploded across Japan. It was popular with the youth and it was popular with sort of the elderly, which is something that's very rare, I believe. And it started to sort of expand upon the world, not just in Japan anymore. It sort of became this thing that we kind of know it as today. 2004, a required Hong Kong judge named Wayne Gold makes a program that can automatically make Sudoku puzzles. That same year, he takes it to the Times of London and essentially starts this global phenomenon for Sudoku. Sort of invents the craze. I'm sorry, I keep seeing things around my room and I think they're trying to kill me. But he sort of starts this craze that we know Sudoku as today, right? With him making this algorithm that can make Sudoku games digitally and have them always be accurate, he sort of starts the powder keg that will become Sudoku apps in sort of mobile gaming a little bit in the puzzle space. You now make it possible with that algorithm to make a bunch of different versions of Sudoku apps and possibly even monetize them and make money off of them. Kind of interesting that he used to be a judge. Anyways, and that sort of comes into how we know Sudoku as today. I've played Sudoku on pen and paper. I've played Sudoku on my phone. Shocker, I like my phone better. Well, sometimes. If I'm playing it with friends, and yeah, I have friends, I like the paper better. Actually, me and my good friend once played Sudoku recently, and we solved it. But it took us a very long time because it was a hard one. But it is really fun, and I recommend it if you haven't played Sudoku before. But that's sort of how Sudoku became a global sensation that it sort of is today. I mean, it's definitely one of the more popular puzzle games. And to think that this all kind of happens because of some guy trying to do math research in the 18th century. Very interesting. Also, very interested in the timeline where Nicoli, the puzzle people in Japan, if they didn't actually do such a good job at rebranding, I wonder if it would still be so popular. You can comment below your thoughts about that, but I really do think that that sort of gave it a global sensation, along with Gold bringing it to the Times in London. But yeah, so that was a brief history of Sudoku. If you guys want to know more about stuff like this or different tidbits of history, let me know in the comments and I might be able to make a video about it. I already have another video sort of out or in the works as we speak. I'm on internship for the next semester, so I will definitely have more time to sort of get in a good groove of things. I'm not saying a schedule for uploading or anything yet because again, this is sort of my first real video. The Q&A was more of a thing I threw together, and I don't want to have a schedule and not keep it because I will, you know, what's your word worth then, right? Anyways, I hope you have enjoyed a brief history of Sudoku. Um, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff helps out the channel, helps out me. Who am I? I'm just Swamp Cult, the small crazy guy who they keep in this room, and they only let me out when the sun's down. No, but seriously, I hope you have a great evening, and I will see you later. Swamp Cult out.